Hi, this is Wesley.
This is Alan. Hi.
And we would like to welcome you to the Underground Geek Shack. So today we're talking about Across the Spiderverse.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie's 2 hours long. Once again, I've been doing a lot of 2 hour long movies lately.
I mean, to be honest with you, like, this movie does what a lot of movies I've seen do, especially after I've seen the recent Mission Impossible movie, where it's like, instead of wrapping everything up in one movie, let's just put it in two parts, which I feel like this movie does a good job, doing the whole two-part thing, because for me, honestly, when I first saw the movie, I didn't really, notice the time that much.
Yeah.
And when I thought about it, it's like, you know what? I am knowing that this is going on, long time, but I'm not really complaining because I'm having such a good time.
Yeah. You know how we have Into the Spiderverse, right? Mm-hmm. So I see Into the Spiderverse as more of like a Miles-centered story, whereas Across the Spiderverse is more focusing on Gwen.
I see it as doing it both ways, because at the end of the day, it still is a Miles Morales story, but it just feels like it's a more Gwen and Miles Morales story at the same time. Because the thing that the movie does, which I didn't expect, was that it actually started out with a 20-minute, Gwen Stacy story, where this is after, the events of Into Spider-Verse, and it shows, how she's dealing with it afterwards, her trouble with her father and everything. They go into more of the history of her with her Peter Parker and how he died and she feels guilty. So I feel like the movie, I know when it was advertised, of course, it'd be like, hey, Miles Morales. Yeah. But I kind of like how they were like, hey, let's kind of recap, the movie, but from Gwen's point of view.
Yeah, I like that too. And then I also like how they introduce different people, and then we have this huge society of Spider-Man, and I'm like, that's a lot of people.
I mean, that's a lot of Spider-Man. No. That's a lot of cameos.
Right?
Hey, buy this comic. But the thing I love about, the first 20 minutes is how they really do establish, hey, this is Gwen Stacy's world, because her world has more of like a watercolor feel where depending on her emotion and everybody else's emotion, it changes. Oh, yeah. Now it goes to beg the question, okay, is everybody saying this or just for like an audience?
Yeah.
Interpretation of what's going on? But it really doesn't matter because I feel like this movie really umps the animation and the artistic colors and frame rates and all that kind of stuff where they go, because I really did love how they had to fight with the what's it called, the Vulture, but he had a more
it was more of like a
Leonardo da Vinci, like we see those old sketches and
it was more of like a rough sketch kind of deal.
And I feel like in the last movie they did this thing where they mess with different animation styles. You have the anime with Penny, you have Peter Parker with the more Looney Tunes, you had the noir Spider-Man, but I feel like with this one they really went balls to the wall with hey, Lego, video games, little comic books, cowboys, dinosaurs. I'm like, wow, you were really pushing the ante. I mean, I know it was crazy last time.
There's also a cat, and it's like, okay.
But I guess just to touch upon the characters, I really do love, the new characters introduced. They introduced Spider-Woman, who's pregnant while riding a motorcycle.
And Jessica Drew.
And they introduced pretty much the main antagonist of this movie. I mean, there are another one, but pretty much the main one that we really do follow is Miguel.
Well, we follow two, because we follow the Spot, and we also follow Miguel.
Yeah, I feel like Miguel's lead into that.
That's more of for
complicated. I'm doing bad things for the good reason. The Spot's just being the Spot.
Yeah, he's just like, all right, I'm your nemesis. And it's funny because he's like, I will be more than a villain of the week, and I'm like, dang, he really took that comment hard.
But the funny thing is that's how he was advertised, in the trailer, because he was just there for a split second with that joke of that loaf of bread falling out, and he wasn't really presented that much in the movie, and they really were just showing more Miguel as the kind of antagonist of the movie, even and the after credits scenes Into Spider-Verse thinking to Miguel, so it was pretty much, Miguel's the villain. But the Spot, though, you forgot about the bagel.
Yep. The bagel. That's what threw me off. Because I'm like, that's from the first one.
That was, the thing is, that was just a joke. That was, one off, he took a bagel, boom, and that was it. And in this one, it's you created me when you hit me with a bagel. And I'm like, wait, what? That's a, wait, what?
That's a thing?
since, this is a Miles Morales movie, let's talk about Miles Morales himself. So the thing about it is that, they aged him up a little bit, you know, and everything. And right now they are showing, hey, being Spider-Man isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, and it's like, there are the canon events that are, supposed to happen for every...
Which became a meme, and right? I am... Like, I'm not gonna say some of the jokes here because I don't want to get canceled, but it's like, hey, such and such, that was a canon event. I'm like, no. Look, first, hey, getting hit with a pie, falling down the stairs, that's fun. But natural disasters, other tragic events, no, let's not do that.
But it's like, because like one thing that they had said in the film, like if, Uncle Ben hadn't passed away, then none of them would have been there.
I mean, it's the classic, if Bruce Wayne's parents didn't die, there would be no Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I really loved Miles Morales, in this movie, his character development, because there is, like, a rift between him and his parents that are showing.
Right, yeah.
Especially at the beginning, where he went through that whole time to get the cake.
Right.
And they came back, and what would they say? It was like, I'm not proud, or something like that.
Yeah, it was like, because he had the lady write out this entire message, and all for it just to say, I'm not proud, and I'm like, oh. But then it also draws a parallel to what the guidance counselor was saying, too. Mm-hmm. She's like, you can't have your cake and eat it, too, not unless you bake 2 cakes. In which, what Miles was trying to do.
And he proved that isn't the case at all.
Yeah, and also, that's also a parallel between either you have, when Miguel was saying to Miles, you either save one person or you save the entire world. Mm. You can't have your cake and eat it, too.
Why does it always go back to cake?
I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah, but I kind of like the dilemma that's happening with the parents. Us being 2 brothers who I guess are black. We can relate, especially we're gonna get into funny theater stories because I have a bunch of them. What happened in the movie theater, but it was funny because throughout the whole movie I watched it with your family, and there were times Miles Morales' mama was giving her speeches and giving her advice, and I just hear your mom be like, I told you that same thing to your brother, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to watch a movie here.
We're just trying to watch. Calm down.
Yeah, but I can relate because especially the thing that really got me, when she was giving the whole speech to Miles, be like, hey, like, even though you might go to these places where you might feel like you don't belong there, you have to show them that you do belong there. Yeah. And I heard, behind the scenes that the writers were really like writing about, how Miles Morales was first presented, how people don't see Miles Morales as a Spider-Man because unfortunately, like, some people think he's just a forced character for diversity and all that kind of stuff. Oh, you're just here because you're black or you're a person of color. And that goes into, what Miguel was saying, like, you don't belong here. Yeah. And that's a commentary of how people say Miles Morales doesn't belong here, all that kind of stuff. But, I really did love, the parents, in this movie, how they have, like, they always had a focus in the first one, but I feel like they have more of a focus in this one.
Right, yeah.
Because I only feel like in this first one, Miles Morales' mama only said a few lines, and that was it.
So, yeah, I think so.
She had her thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit middle, but that was pretty much it.
Whereas in this one, it's more of a focus. Mm-hmm. And it's like because after he speaks with his mom and everything, and, she's like, you need to protect the little boy that's still there. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that basically rang true throughout the entire time when he was running throughout, being chased throughout the Spider Society. And I was like, all right, that makes a good point. Because it's like, there's always that child version of you. I mean, yeah, we all grow up, but it's like, you still have that childlike wonder. Mm-hmm. Oh, but some people are just like, oh, we're just going to cast away the child version of ourselves. We still got to grow up anyway. But it's like, you still kind of have to have that childlike wonder.
Yeah, because if not, you're going to think everything's going to be bad and doomism, and you're going to be depressed all the time. And it's like, no, things do get better. Like, even...
you gotta look at, the bright side of things.
Yeah, and even Miles said that, look, Spider-Man can do both.
Oh, yeah. Because even Mountbatten's Spider-Man, when he was trying to save Captain Singh and his version of MJ, and he was like, I can do both. And... we saw what happened.
Let's go back to that scene. Like, I love that scene, where they're in, how do you say it? Mountbatten and everything. And, after the spot, goes to the collider and becomes more powerful and goes back to Miles' world and everything. Like, I like that scene, but realistically, it's like, all those buildings falling down. Right. You tell me you saved everybody? Like, there has to be a few bodies up in that rubble somewhere. I'm sorry. But, different characters that we meet, I feel like not all of them had a purpose and everything. Right. My favorite character, I think everybody's favorite, had to be, Hobie.
Hobie, yeah. Because when I watched it, I was like, my boy, Hobie, he came in clutch.
Which he always contradicts himself, because he's always against the establishment, but it's like, but you're part of the group, that is kind of part of the establishment, but he's like, well, am I? I'm like, yes, you are.
Right. And then, because I like how Hobie sees Miles kind of like as like a little brother. Mm-hmm. And so, like, when Miles was trying to take down the barrier, Hobie looks at him and goes, hey, my boy, use your palms, not just your fingertips. And I was like, that's gonna play a bigger role later on.
Like, even when, the whole scene where, Miles, Gwen, and Hobie were walking towards, Miguel, mm-hmm. and Hobie was collecting different pieces of the machines, and it's like, oh, that's just, like, him messing around. But then rewatching, it's like, oh, no, that's what he used.
He's used that to make his own watch. And I was like, okay. Because then, he just opened the portal, he said, all right, I quit, and just walked out. And I was like, did Hobie take the watch with him? But I think after...
No, he dropped it.
He dropped it, and I was like... Because I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, no, he dropped it, he's just out. I did like all the cameos that we had in the film, too. So, I liked the cameos that we had, right, mm-hmm. were really good. Because, one of them, I don't know if you knew when Miles went back into his dorm room, mm-hmm. and Genki was playing I think it was the PlayStation 5.
Well, he was playing the PS5 Spider-Man.
And he was playing Spider-Man, and I was like, wait a minute.
They even make a joke, but hey, here's all the video game characters. Are you guys referring to me?
And then you saw, PS4 Spider-Man. He's like, are you guys referring to me? And I was like, yo, look at you.
Yes, I can tell which was a cameo because you, your mama, and your brother, every time something came on, you're like, ooh, ooh. I'm like, yo, I get it, but I'm trying to watch the movie. You and those dang recliners.
Right.
Not going on a tangent, but me and Wesley went to see this movie at the Regal Theater, and that was really in the longest time I went to the Regal Theater, so I really hadn't experienced, any of those recliner chairs, mm-hmm. and I was getting comfortable, and I was like, yeah, this is nice. And on the side, all I gotta do is press a button and everything, mm-hmm. and here was like, nee, and nee, and I was like, okay. But in the middle of the movie, when there was an emotional scene, especially when it was between Gwen and her father, right. when Gwen was giving that speech, you guys said me who I am, and I was like, oh, Gwen, nee. And I was like, y'all just getting comfortable?
Right when she had said, okay, then just go ahead and arrest me here. Go ahead and I was like, wait a minute, that's not the line.
But yeah, all the cameos, this could be... Some people can see cameos as just say, hey, remember this? Right. But because, of the animation and because... the movie does have a great story. Yeah. It really doesn't bring the movie down. Oh, look, they do the whole big cameo during the whole chase scene. That's the only time they really do the big cameos. Hey, look at this. Look what we have. Look at the background.
Not only that, but also when when they had the whole... I like Miles' term better than Miguel's of the Spiderverse.
What was Miguel's again?
His was
It was a long...
It was a long name.
Was it written...
I don't even remember.
I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
I like Miles' term better, calling it the Spiderverse. It was basically the web of Destiny, pretty much, which is from Madam Web.
Okay.
And that is where you also got to see, all the deaths of, people that Spider-Man had cared about, starting with, Uncle Ben, and then, leading up to Captain Stacy.
Oh yeah, and they do the thing where they, bring up, the live action movies, and everything. Which, look. Between this, Marvel, mm-hmm. The live action Sony movies, at this point, I'm tired of the whole multiverse because it's just confusing. Because it's just because Miguel does bring up Doctor Strange mm-hmm. and Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and so I guess at the same time, No Way Home mm-hmm. happened at the same time, kind of maybe after this, because they do bring up Doctor Strange in this person. And so it's like, wait, so why didn't so are they gonna come in? Is this just a cameo shout out to this movie? Because they do connect Venom, and Venom is part of the MCU now. So it's like one of those things where I treat it as comic books, second tier canon, where you have the main canon, but then you have the second tier canon, but the main canon contradicts the second tier canon is no longer canon. So it's kind of like this confusing mess of like, so what's real, what's not, if it's connected, will this ever play out? Because my deal is that, okay, you're saying it, but will this lead to something? Because
so you know how when Miguel told Gwen about Doctor Strange and his Spider, and that Spider-Man from Earth 99999, that's actually what the cinematic universe was originally called before they switched it to Earth 616.
Okay.
So, Earth 616 is basically comic book version Spider-Man's universe. It's just the MCU just took it and went like, all right, now our Spider-Man is now 616 instead of 199999.
Okay, my brain broke.
Yep.
It's confusing. It doesn't matter. Look, it doesn't ruin the movie for me.
It's like they did a spreadsheet.
They did a small, cameo with the woman from Venom and everything.
Right, yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, okay, what would someone's reaction to this movie be if they weren't a big Spider-Man fan? Because I feel like this movie, especially, when they're explaining the whole, Spider-Verse thing, canon events, like, if you like, one thing if you never seen any of the live action movies at all,
right?
And then suddenly a live action person just shows up and it's like, wait, I can take different animation styles, but what is Child Gambino doing here?
Right? You're like, what in the?
Is that the guy from Community? Of course, I grew up on the cartoons. I grew up on these live action movies. I get it. I understand it because I'm part of quote unquote nerd culture.
Yeah.
I mean, I better be. Like, what am I wearing this for? But I would love to talk to somebody who hasn't watched a lot of, the movies and stuff and be like, so what do you think of this film? Like, I was enjoying it until it got to the whole splitting of everything and now I'm confused.
Yeah. They did do one interesting thing that I liked, which was with the Spectacular Spider.
Oh, yeah, because he shows up.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they're so short.
Right? And I'm like, what in the world?
I'm like, in his world, he's like, probably like the size of Miles, but in this universe compared to everybody else, he's just a short little man.
Right? You're just like, okay. But it's like, when I saw him out, I was like, hey, that's Spectacular Spider-Man. And I'm like, all right, cool. That's an interesting cameo to have in there. And then apparently they made a cameo for one of the people who did one of the ending songs. So the guy actually has his own version of Spider-Man in the movie.
Is he the Spider-Man that was like, there's nowhere to run, and it's like, sorry y'all, there was somewhere to run? Yeah. I was like, okay. It's like, damn, this brother got black real quick.
Right?
I knew Miles was black, but man. I don't know, anything else you want to talk about, like the cameos? Your favorite ones, your least favorite ones that you felt like that was too much?
Let's see. They kind of did Ben a little bit wrong, though. The one that was all brooding, and he was like, oh my gosh, the pain.
Yeah, look, I haven't read, I don't know that version of, Spider-Man. I know when I, went to watch some very nerdy videos of, apparently people were mad because he's not that brooding, or they just made him a joke.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man.
And it's funny because, like, when he has Miles, when he's holding Miles, he goes, I have you in my in my muscular grasp. And I'm like, my dude, you good?
Like, were people just making fun of him because he felt like he was being too edgy of a Spider-Man?
Pretty much, yeah. Because I'm gonna go off on a sidebar here, but in the comics, Ben Reilly is technically a clone of Peter Parker.
Okay.
And so he, gets bitten by, a radioactive spider, gets turned into Spider-Man, pretty much. So.
Wait, so it's not like they cloned him and he already had the powers. He had to be cloned, then get bitten by a radioactive spider.
And it got to a point where Peter had to fight himself, which was the clone. And so when Ben realized that he was a clone, then he was like, all right, I'm gonna live for myself, not for anyone else type deal. And then took on the name Ben Reilly, from Uncle Ben, and then Peter passed on the mantle of Spider-Man to Ben. So that's how that whole thing went about. It sounds confusing, and I know it is.
Like, it's like, okay, so who cloned him? What was the point?
I got no clue. I never really
like, wait, if he passed the mantle, how old is Peter?
Right? Which is weird, because in most, like...
Is this like a Beyond the Batman situation?
I got no
where
clue.
Technically the new Batman is a clone because they took the DNA of Batman Bruce Wayne to make a new Batman?
I got no clue. Because, like, in most times, it's weird, because they have Spider-Man, but he's only, like, 16, and he's still a high school student, and I'm like, can we age him up, please?
It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where technically they say they're teenagers, but they act like they're in their 20s.
Right?
Yeah, but, just getting on track. What was... I guess, you want to go towards the end of the movie and the big reveals and everything?
Yeah. We can do that.
Oh, yeah, so, towards the end of the film, Peter... Not Peter. No, Miles. No, Miles, was able to get away with... I forgot... who was the VTuber Spider-Man?
Spider-Bite.
He was able to get away because Spider-Bite let him go, everything. And I don't know, I just find it funny how towards the end, how am I blanking on his name? Not Miles.
You're talking about Miguel?
No, why am I bling on Miguel? I'm sorry, there's so many Spider-Man. Miguel was mad and being like, how could you get away? We're the good guys. Let's go have the make sure Dad dies. I'm like, wait, what? Because, you've seen the movie, the whole canon of it is that a chief has to die and someone close to Spider-Man has to die. And so Miguel was like, I'm sorry, man. Your dad, I know you love him, brother, but he got to go.
He gotta go. We gotta make him captain, and then he has to meet his demise. Like, whoa, you don't have to do that.
And so, because, I forgot what the machine's called, where it sends you back to your original dimension based on your DNA.
It's called the Go Home.
The Go Home.
The Go Home machine.
It'd be one thing if it was a go home machine, zap, but it's very creepy where it webs you around and grabs you and everything.
Because it's literally made to look like a spider, and I'm just like, how would you feel if you had arachnophobia, and then you just look up and you just see this thing just looking at you, and you're like, no.
It's funny how I would love to do an edit where Miguel's like, we are the good guys, we are. Okay, but what about this big, scary spider that grabs you and be like, come here! What's the guy from Mortal Kombat? Like, Scorpion, be like, get over here! Yeah, but, because Miles got his spider...
From Earth 42.
Yes, and that world had no Spider-Man, but, the machine was like, okay, I'm sending you to this dimension that your spider came from. And he thought, Mom, I have something to tell you.
Right.
I'm Spider-Man.
And then she goes, who's Spider-Man? And when she said, who's Spider-Man, I was like, you're in the wrong dimension.
I kind of knew that from the beginning, honestly, because there were, certain hints where I'm like, something doesn't feel right. Because I feel like, Miles' mom would have a bigger reaction to something. And I just feel like the way they were cutting back and forth between Gwen and Miles, I'm like, something ain't right here.
Yeah. I also found it because, when he sat there and was when he's still wearing his, Spider-Man costume, and then he throws his jacket on, and I was like, that's not your jacket. Because it was the color variation of his jacket is usually black and red. And the one from that dimension was green and purple.
And the fact that, this universe's Miles' mom said, what'd you do to your hair?
Right.
And then when they found out, this Miles Morales has braids now.
Yeah, because Uncle Aaron was like, oh, you took out your braids? And I was like, wait a minute.
I mean, you're alive.
Right?
But yeah, so we introduced to evil Miles.
Right.
And which I seen a lot of theories. The reason why, this version of Miles has more of a... Puerto Rican accent is because he was raised more by his mom because his dad died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting the fact that the Prowler, Miles, in that Earth, you have the Sinister Six cartel.
So there's a theory that I saw where people think that Uncle Aaron and this Miles are actually the good guys, and they're fighting the Sinister Six.
That's what I'm thinking, because I'm like...
But they're more like the anti-heroes,
yeah,
where they will get dirty.
Yeah, like they have no problem with dirtying their hands, which I would like to see that. And Beyond the Spider-Verse, I would like to see that. Because like the way how this movie ends is just, alright, yeah, I'm Miles Morales, and I'm the Prowler. Cut to black, and I'm like...
The funny thing is that I remember... Okay, I knew, there's going to be a third film, and everything. I heard about it. But for some reason, I thought it was going to be, how Into the Spider-Verse, it still, had a beginning, middle, and end story, where they left, the whole, Gwen Stacy saying, hey, Miles, you gotta say, at the end, but they still, had a complete story. This one, they just did a Back to the Future 2, where it was like, stay tuned for part 3.
Right? They're like, Miles Morales will return, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I really, love this movie, like, for real, because I feel like, the Into the Spider-Verse movies really did, make Miles a more popular character. I'm not saying he wasn't popular, but, I feel like the only thing he had was cartoons.
To like a wider audience.
Yeah, because, this movie made a lot of money. And I feel like, before he was just relegated, he had cartoon appearances, he has comics, of course, and I think that was pretty much it. But with this movie, it really did, like, push him into, pop culture, really, like, up him. Like, because right now you have the new Spider-Man games coming out, Spider-Man 2, where, Miles is more of a complete focus. Yeah. And everything.
Outside of his own game.
Yeah. And the thing I will say is that, I love the movie to death. I'm just afraid. I just hope that part 3 lands the ending, because if it doesn't, then it will kind of tank this movie a little bit.
It kind of has to, though. It has to land an ending, because this is basically the middle portion.
And no, I'm saying it has to land a good ending. Oh, yeah. A complete ending.
It has to wrap everything
anything that is satisfying, because if it's... Let's just say, I doubt it, because I remember when this movie came out, people were, okay, it's going to be good as, like, the first one. But I feel like I like this movie way better than, the first one. But I just feel like, okay, come on, you have to land the ending, because if you don't, then I'm going to watch this movie again and be like... This is good, but I know what's gonna happen next.
Right? It's like you need to have like a satisfying ending, and it needs to wrap everything up. I wouldn't say in a nice bow, but it would probably be helpful to at least tie up all the loose ends.
I'm not saying everything has to be perfect. Oh yeah, everyone lives and everybody's happy. It's like, I'm just saying, wrap up.
I'm saying not like it's like you can have the bow as the ending, but then it's like all right, such and such happens in her 42. It's like, all right, we know what happens there. What happens with Gwen? What happens with Peter? What happens with Miles?
Look,
it's like, because
I'm not saying that they're not gonna have time. Look, this movie is 2 hours,
right? What are they gonna do? Pull an endgame situation?
Yeah, I mean, hey, to complete all these story arcs, 3 hours. I mean, the thing that this movie is gonna do is that it is gonna introduce.
They're gonna have a DLC content.
No. I mean, the thing about the third movie is that he's going to have way more characters, on the team, because the first movie you had Peter B. Parker, Gwen, Miles, Peter Porker, Penny, Spider-Man Noir. But this one now you have Hobie, you have, how do you say, what's the Indian Spider-Man called?
Pavata Parker.
What?
I just call him Spider-Man.
And now you have VTuber Spider-Man.
Right.
So that's 9 characters. I'm down they're going to get all the focus that they need, but I just hope that it really does take the landing and there will be a good film and wrap everything up in a very satisfying way that makes sense and everything. And really just have stage, because I don't want to be it's not a movie, but a show that I always go back to with this problem is that you have the first season of Promised Neverland, that's so good, that you watch and good. I love, and I'm like, it has so many twists and turns and suspense.
You're not expecting it.
But then you go to the second season and
it feels rushed.
It feels like, where did this come from? Did you just pull it out of your butt? and every time and then it's like, well, I can't recommend Promised Neverlands now.
I can recommend season 1,
but it leads off of a cliffhanger.
And that's the thing, is that like it leads off on a cliffhanger. They take out characters that are supposed to be in there. They took out an entire arc. I know I'm sidetracking here, but it's like no, and then it's bad because it's like you have something that's good, and then you have the source material. And it's bad when you want to sit there and recommend someone something to watch, and then you're like, oh, well, now you have to go and read.
I mean, I'm just pretty much saying with the film. Like, I just want it to be a complete story that I could love.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't feel like a complete movie in a sense. Like, it really does feel like hey, part 2, there's still more. It feels like a season finale, pretty much, to a show.
Right?
Well, yeah, season 1, that was good, but I love a cliffhanger where they could go back. But hey, there's somehow got another season, which is this movie, not season 2. And season 2, there's all a big cliffhanger. But now we got season 3. And if they don't get a good finale, then it's like, well, I just wasted my time.
Right.
But yeah. So I know we're like singing the praises of this movie, but is there anything in this movie that you didn't love, that you wish was in here, that you wish had more time or more explanation to flesh out?
I guess the fact of like, because I get that Captain Stacy said that he quit, but he quit halfway through Gwen's speech and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to figure out, is that still going to disrupt the canon?
I heard a theory, not with Gwen, but with Miles, is that because Miles wasn't originally the Spider-Man of his universe, and he got his powers from a spider from another universe, that his father, that he's really not a Spider-Man, he's just an anomaly, and that it doesn't matter if his father, lives or dies, because it seems that each Spider-Man in their universe has one Spider-Man, and this Spider-Man somehow had two, with the reason that Miles got his powers because of another Spider from another universe.
Yeah. And
so he kind of is not part of the canon in a sense, so he kind of is an anomaly. So it's.
But then, here's one question I want to raise to you then. What about Mayday Parker? Because the only reason why Peter had Mayday was because of Miles. That means Mayday is also an anomaly.
Yeah, but we haven't really seen what would happen. I don't know. We have to wait and see for the third movie. Like, these are things where we're going to get the serious conversation. Yeah, what about this? What about this? I'm like, just wait. Like, we got 3 years.
Just like how you and me are going to have to wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah. There was news that came out Beyond the Spider-Verse was delayed, because of the writer's strike and everything. Which I'm fine with, because, look, I want writers to get paid. Like, I don't want, movies to be written by AI.
Oh, no.
And become stale.
You need to have, that human touch to it.
Like, look, I don't want it to be a manufactured Lifetime movie stories.
Right.
Where it's the most formulaic, generic, bland characters just to push out a product.
Oh, yeah. So what about for you? Did you have anything that you didn't like about the movie?
I'm trying to think. Look, I know there's nothing called a perfect movie, but when it comes to characters, I really did enjoy the characters. I don't know, when it comes to the themes of the movie, I really enjoy it. I don't know, there's nothing really I could point to where maybe if it's nitpicky stuff, I'm like, yeah, there's too many cameos, but I don't want to.
160.
I guess the thing that I couldn't, it's not an issue for me, but I can see issue for other people, is they definitely did turn up the animation and the colors and everything, and I could see somebody looking at this and getting a headache. Yeah. Because, in the first one, they did really, play with frame rates and different characters and stuff. Mm-hmm. And with this movie, it kind of got me a little bit, toward, at the beginning with the whole Vulture from another universe, where it just felt like the colors just going everywhere and everything. It was like, whoa, okay, I'm used to it now. Right. But at first, I was like, this is kind of too much. I could see that, bothering somebody, especially, if you're not that fan of all these colors and stuff. Yeah. And there's an argument that I've seen go around that all these anime films are becoming too, I guess, stylized. You got the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that came out, and people say, that took inspiration from Spiderverse, everything, and this is going to be a too much saturation of the market of this kind of animation style. Because before, we just have the typical 3D animation. Yeah. where it was good, but it didn't really feel like none of these animators or businesses were taking a risk with their animation until you had, Sony come out. But the funny thing is, before Into the Spider-Verse came out, the last Sony movie that came out, I believe, was the Emoji Movie. Yeah. And that was the time where, even before the movie came out, people were capping on it and be like,
whoa.
And I was like, hey, maybe it could be good. I mean, the Lego Movie, came out, but the thing about the Lego Movie, it had style. Yeah. And it used Lego to its fullest potential. Yeah. But with the Emoji Movie, I've seen it, unfortunately, and it legitimately is the most generic movie ever. Like, they do the whole...
I thought about watching it, and I was like, no, I'm good.
No, I mean, they do the whole classic thing of, like, a character reveal of like, hey, I was a princess the entire time. Be yourself. I could be more than I want to be. It's like, there's nothing...
It's one of the generic...
Yeah, and the whole premise of it, I mean, I think it's sidetracked. I mean, it's a movie 2 hours long. Is that in the Emoji Movie, it was just about a guy trying to get with a girl, and it was kind of do this Inside Out thing where there were just characters in the phone. But they were making it seem that, oh, my emojis are messing up. I guess I gotta delete my phone and they'll all be gone, which is not how the phone works. Okay. I don't know, it makes with logic that much. But I was just saying, before, even when I was watching the first trailer for Into the Spiderverse, and I'm just saying, I'm like, wow, this is Sony? This is really cool. But still, it's like, hey, I don't know how this is gonna be. But then after watching it, I was like, wow, this is really good.
Oh, yeah.
And I just feel like, the Spiderverse movies really is pushing the animation industry and animation movies, to be more creative. Because there's a new movie also on Netflix. I forgot what it's called, but it's a adaptation of a graphic novel. It starts with an M. Is it Ninema? It's about a shape-shifting girl with pink hair.
I know which one you're talking about.
And it really does, have that 2D/3D style to it. Yeah. And, Disney put out this other animation that's coming out, Wish, where it is mixing, 3D and 2D animation. Yeah. So I feel like, what we have to preach about Spiderverse is pushing the animation industry forward. Yeah. I mean, it's going to take a long time because there's a lot of animators that worked on this, and, they deserve all the credit. But, I just love, this movie. I love how, it is showing more representation, of course.
Oh, yeah. So, would you recommend people to go and watch both Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse?
Oh, yeah. Like, definitely watch Into the Spider-Verse first, and, Across the Spider-Verse. These are great movies to watch, especially with kids. They have great messages. It shows great depictions of, people of color, especially when it comes to hair styles and stuff. But, yeah, if you're just a big, animation fan, Spider-Man fan, want to get into Spider-Man, definitely, I think you should really check this out.
Oh, yeah. Well, with that being said, first, like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and you want to leave them off with a comment, Alan?
Oh, yeah. Be patient. Support, writers out there. Hey, look, this brother's a writer, too, so he can relate, right. If you can, get involved, help out with the writer strike, donate anything you can. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. Well, thanks for watching, the Underground Geek Shack. I was enjoying doing this with my best friend, Wesley. Thanks. And, as always...
we hope you've enjoyed your visit to
the Underground Geek Shack. See ya!
Maestro.